is these cells, they line in the deep tubules of the stomach, and their secretions reach the surface through the gastric pits. So the chief cells produce their pepsinogen, which is a precursor to pepsin, and gastric lipase, and so that's a fat digesting enzyme. And then finally, there's the endocrine cells, the G cells, and they're located in that antrum, that's that bottom part of the stomach, that produce the hormone gastrin. And so gastrin is secreted directly into the bloodstream, and it makes its way back to the fundus, which is up a couple rungs, okay, from the antrum. And so what that does is it triggers that gastrin production, so that the gastric production, in order to balance, that balances the pH in the digestive tract. So you even have to make sure that the bloodstream is 7.37 pH. The pH, so this gastrin works with making sure that not too much food passes through too quickly, and that when it does, that the pH is in balance. So it signals the receptors in the antrum where the acid levels for the chyme have become too diluted. So it'll send a message back if it needs to trigger like more hydrochloric acid to be released to help with the final process of everything churning and mixing to make it into the small intestine. So again, enzyme digestion is almost never accounted for in the medical textbooks. Doctors don't really talk about digestive enzymes. They don't. I know that when I've gone in and tried to talk to them about enzymes and supplements, they really do have the attitude that none of that works. So, in any case, whether there's, whether there is the enzymes, there's a lot of ways naturally to get that stimulated. And again, that ginger is good for hydrochloric acid, papaya, peppermint, spearmint, chlorophyll. Liquid chlorophyll made from alfalfa is a wonderful way to balance the pH and to get the stomach acids in balance. Because, 75% of a lot of the problems with the stomach have a lot to do within the way that you're preparing food. So, if your food hits 110 to 129 degrees Fahrenheit, you have virtually destroyed all of its enzyme properties in it. So you've rendered that food non-nutritional. And, I've had people come to me and they say, oh, well, the doctor said that my stomach doesn't function, then I don't assimilate anything. And it's like, you can't be to the point where your digestive tract does not assimilate nothing. I mean, if that was the case, you would be dead.
That's when it assimilates nothing.
Yeah, it's like, well, I'm here to tell you that, you can't tell me that your stomach does not function at all, because, if it didn't function at all, they would be, hey, done surgeries where they remove your stomach and make you a stomach out of the top of the small intestine.
Yeah, I was going to say, you'd probably be walking around with colostomy bags,
Well,
maybe, and...
That's for elimination, the colostomy bag, but I've known of people who had their stomachs, a new stomach made. Like they had stomach cancer, so they removed the stomach and then made them a stomach out of the top of the small intestine.
So, I mean, and honestly, I mean, I know I'm not a doctor, but once they start messing with the intestines,
Yeah, a lot of things are, well, a lot of times nothing's ever the same.
Right.
Once they get in there and start moving things around and removing things.
Oh, I am a, I can tell you, because I had surgery where they had to go in and move all my insides to one side to be able to get down to my spine.
Yeah.
So, how long they stayed asleep after, and how weird and everything felt when they put everything supposedly back together, because everything fell asleep once they touched it.
Yes.
And moved it. And so now I needed pills to make this system work, and a pill to make that system work, and a pill to make this system work, and a pill to make, for the side effects of those pills. It was a horrible thing. You don't want...
Wow. Yeah. So, so after this process of all this intense mixing and digesting, the chyme moves from the body of the stomach and then down into that antrum where it's held up. And then the body knows that the duodenum is very small, so therefore only a small amount of the chyme is allowed into the duodenum at any given time. So the rest remains in the antrum for additional mixing and grinding and additional chemical digestion. In fact, the major chemical process that takes place not only in the body of the stomach but in the antrum, while the chyme is waiting to pass through the pyloric valve. So the next thing is the HCl and the pepsin. So that takes place by breaking down more of the protein. And I had mentioned that, our protein then is broken down into amino acids. The other thing with hydrochloric acid, or HCl, is it also kills the microorganisms from if you ingest, bad meat or produce, produce that has E. coli or something, salmonella on it. It's food poisoning. So it's hydrochloric acid that kills that in the stomach. So if you get a lot of food poisoning, or food, you're getting sick to your stomach a lot from food, it's a good chance you're low on hydrochloric acid.
You just reminded me of a show that I saw maybe last year. I cannot remember the name of it, but it was this family that lived off the grid, and they went around and they only ate roadkill. Okay, and some of this meat was just absolutely rancid. And I mean, looked like, oh my goodness, like it had penicillin growing on it and everything. And they were eating it like it was a delicacy. And they said that they never got sick. I mean, it was probably because it was full of penicillin and they were kind of... yeah, that's... pretty sick. Yeah, it was disgusting. I'm telling you, it was disturbing.
If they can eat all of that kind of food, and certainly they cook it and prepare it, but the thing is they'd have to have pretty good amount of hydrochloric acid.
Wow, yeah.
And meat eaters tend to have people who crave meat tend to be like an O blood type.
Okay.
Those are the meat eaters.
Interesting. And
they have higher hydrochloric acid levels in their stomach, and that's before, being a, carnivore. Vegetarians tend to be more the A blood type, where they're just not interested in meat. They don't want any meat. That tends to be an A blood type, and they're the natural vegetarians. So they do more, fruits, vegetables, grains. They have a lower amount of hydrochloric acid. Their body doesn't make as much because naturally their system does better if they stay, vegan.
So vegan is vegetarian?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask that question.
Yeah,
I was going to wait to see what B was.
Yeah. So they're the natural vegetarians, is the A blood types. And the majority of the time in all these years of working with people that absolutely detest red meat and will not eat it, and a lot of comments that they'll make is that it just stays in my stomach too long. I have a stomach ache for so long, and you get talking and you find out what their blood type is, and there's plenty of A blood types out there that do eat meat, but there's a lot of them that don't.
Interesting.
And it is because they don't feel good when they eat animal protein. And it's because their stomach doesn't produce as much hydrochloric acid and pepsin as someone who is a O blood type.
Interesting.
Okay.
Very interesting.
And the B blood types are very lucky. They're able to eat a little bit from all of the food groups. And then actually the rarest blood type of all is AB. And they really lean to vegetarianism, but every once in a while, they have some animal protein. And it's that AB combination where the Bs can have a little bit of every food group.
Uh-huh.
Where the Os are pretty much, berries and
I'm O, and I do love my berry
yeah,
pie, berries, and my meat.
Produce, meat. They don't really do real well.
When I get my
grains.
cravings, I always hit cashews for some odd reason.
That's good. And cashews are, there's a lot of research to prove that you need to be eating raw cashews if you're dealing with depression. Mm-hmm. Raw cashews.
Box of, no.
A box of them. Yeah, really. Always keep a box on hand. So people who have a tendency to get sick from eating meat and produce and tend to have food poisoning, they could be low on hydrochloric acid. So the other thing that hydrochloric acid does is it also stimulates the flow of hormones, which are messengers. And by stimulating that flow of the hormones, the messengers, the gallbladder then releases the bile juice, the pancreas starts releasing, amylase and other enzymes to help in the preparation for the slow releasing into the small intestine. So when the diet is high in raw food, the live enzymes, where the presence of live enzymes are at, the body doesn't have to produce as much hydrochloric acid. And that's because all of the enzymes from the pancreas, the pancreatic enzymes, this also a raw food diet and juicing, it gives the pancreas a rest so that the pancreas doesn't have to work so hard on the releasing of the pancreatic enzymes. So juicing is an excellent way to get your nutrients, all your vitamins, minerals, enzymes, phytonutrients, antioxidants. It's just an excellent way, and you get into that enough. You get a couple weeks behind you on doing that, you really do start to look at food differently.
Well, they say it takes 2 weeks to start a habit. So if you start a habit of juicing